Okay, welcome back guys. So today I'm tackling an all extract brew. And by all extract I mean I'm starting off with the unbittered, light, pure light malt extract and some dry malt extract. So there's no bittering or flavouring in this at all, so we need to add that in. The way that we add that in is for the boiling of the malt and the hops. So what I'm actually going to be doing is a small boil with 500 grams of light malt extract and about 5 litres of water. Part of that's going to be made up with the liquid from steeping these grains. So the first step is going to be steeping these grains in a couple of litres of hot water for about half an hour. I'm going to top it up to 5 litres, dissolve 500 grams of the dry malt extract in it, bring it to a boil, and then start adding my hops. So I've used the Brewing app to work out exactly how much hops I should be adding at what interval to achieve the correct bitterness. So I'm aiming at about sort of 40 IBUs, which is kind of a mid bittering of a beer. You can use this base and choose a different hop if you like, but just be careful because some hops have a higher alpha acid, so that means you'll need less of them for the bittering. But if you punch it all into Brewing or any other kind of sort of brewing app, it will scale those down to achieve the right bitterness. So that's essentially what I'm doing. It's really straightforward. I'm going for this first go. It's going to be a single hop ale, so I'm using first go throughout the whole process. Hopefully it's going to turn out to be a kind of nice English style ale. Having said that though, I am using an American ale yeast because that's just kind of what I had over from a kit. This is 6 grams of American ale yeast. I'm doing a batch size of 10 litres, so it's a nice small batch, so 6 grams is fine for that. And yeah, it's just a great way of experimenting with some ingredients, trying out different specialty malts, trying out different hops, messing around with your own recipes. It really is great fun. So that's what I'm going to be doing. So first step today is to get the grains steeped in some hot water, and then I'll start the boil process. So let's get brewing. So just weighed out my grains and put it into one of these grain socks here. Just tied a loose knot in the top. I've got some water here that I've brought up to 80 degrees. So I'm just going to kind of dunk my grains in there, let it sit in there for half an hour, and that will form the basis of my boil. So be back in half an hour. So just while I'm waiting for my grains to steep, I've just finished steeping. I've got the rest of the water on the boil, or bringing up to the boil. And while that's been happening, I've also weighed out all my hop additions here. So I've got them all lined up and labelled, so there's no confusion or messing about. Once I start the boil, they're all ready to go. So my hop additions, 18 grams to start off with. So I'm doing a 30-minute boil, so this is going to go in from the start. I've got a 15-minute addition, 12 grams, 5 minutes, 12 grams, and flame out I'm going with 28 grams. I've also got like part of a little Protafloc tablet in there, which is a kettle finings thing, so that's going to help clear the water as well. So right, I can hear that my kettle's coming up to the boil. Actually this has now had 30 minutes, so I'm going to transfer this over now into my kettle. So these grains have now been in half an hour, so I'm just going to kind of dunk this in, get the best of those out, drain off a bit. It smells absolutely lovely, actually, really nice and malty. Get as much of that out as I can. Right, now I'm going to transfer this into my kettle. So what I'm going to be left with here is round about 5 litres. So I've used this. This is kind of the smallest pot that I use in brewing. I've used this before, and from the times I've used it, I know just under those rivets is, well, pretty much 5 litres. So I'm probably just a little bit short of 5 litres. I might top it up a little bit. So I've got 5 litres of liquid in here. It is a fairly small pot, so one word of caution, if you're trying this for the first time, give yourself a bit of headspace in the pot that you're using. because what you've got to be careful of here is a boil over. So once this reaches boiling point, you get the hop to break, which is a big foamy head, and if you don't catch it in time, it's going to make a terrible mess. You add your malt extract, make sure you do it off of, so take your pot off of the heat source, because what will happen is this will just drop to the bottom, scorch on the bottom of the pan, and you'll get nasty burnt flavours coming in out of your beer, and you don't want that. So I'm going to add this now, dissolve it in, give it a good mix. Alright, it's looking good, got no lumps, it's not stuck to the bottom of the pan. Let's get the rest of that out. Nothing needs to be sanitary at the moment because this is all going to be boiled, so we haven't got to worry about keeping everything sanitised and clean. It's all going to be boiled up. Alright, so that's that. So next thing, let's get this back on the heat, bring it up to the boiling point. So this is the bit where I need to be really careful it doesn't boil over. Right, now a nice rolling boil past the hot break, so past the danger point, well, one of them anyway. You do have to be careful if you when you drop the hops in that you don't get a boil over then, because that's another point where it can happen. I have added my first addition of hops to this nylon bag, which is just actually a vegetable bag from the supermarket. You can buy these kind of reusable vegetable bag things. So I'm going to pop my hops into this so that it's easier to transfer it out to my fermenter without getting all the hop stuff in it. Alright, so I'm just going to drop this in, set my timer for 30 minutes, and sorry, I'm going to drop this in for and then set my timer for 15 minutes because that's when my next addition is. Let's just tie this off over here somewhere. Okay, so that's the time up on the first addition. So I'm now going to add my second addition to the bag. It's a bit hot. So this is a further 12 grams, and there's also a small amount of a Protafloc tablet in there as well, so that goes in at this addition. So I'm going to whack that in there. And now reset my timer. So this is now going to be in for 10 minutes before the next addition. Okay, so now for the penultimate addition, which is another 12 grams. This is going in for the last 5 minutes. So in the bag it goes. Now we're going to now set the timer for 5 minutes before we turn off the flame. Okay, so now it's time for the final hop addition. So this is 28 grams at flame out. So literally, I'm going to turn off now. That's the end of my boil. So I'm going to add these hops in. Okay. Now I'm going to let this sit off the heat. There's no heat now, so it's just going to sit and steep for the last 15 minutes. So I'm going to leave that 15 minutes and then I'm going to start cooling it down in the sink. Alright, so that's the 15 minutes up now. So I'm just going to remove the hot bag. Drip out. That's where all the goodness is and all the flavour. I'm not going to squeeze it too much because I don't want any of this sort of hot material coming into the wort there. So just let that drain off a little bit. Okay, and now I'm going to add the rest of the liquid malt extract. So everything I'm doing now obviously needs to be sanitised from this point on. So I've just dumped the top of this into my sanitizer. The scissors have been sanitised. So get this in. This has been standing in hot water which if you've used this liquid malt extract you'll know why, because it pours a lot more easily once it's been warmed up. So let that drain into there. You're never going to get all of this out in the first pour, so we're going to add some hot water to this in a minute, swish the rest of that out and start mixing. Okay, so that's all of my malt extract added now and dissolved into this wort, quite concentrated wort now. It's obviously still hot, so I'm going to try and cool it down as quickly as possible. So I'm just filling the sink with cold water, let this sit in the water for a few minutes, empty the plug and kind of repeat the process a few times until it's cooled down enough to put into the fermenter. So I'm going to be topping it up with cold water anyway, so it doesn't kind of need to be yeast pitching temperature, just cool enough to kind of equal it out a little bit. Okay, so this has now been cooling in the sink for about 15 or 20 minutes. Just going to transfer it into my fermenting vessel. Push it through this sieve here just to kind of get the larger particles out. That's pretty good. Oh, it smells fantastic, by the way. So now just got to top it up with some cold water to the 10 litre mark. That's it, it's all in the fermenter. I've just pitched the yeast. It was 23 degrees. I'm going to put this into my fermentation fridge now and leave it probably for about, getting on for 2 weeks I guess. So this particular fermenter, the small one I have, doesn't have a tap on it, so it's difficult to draw samples off of it, and I don't want to keep risking lifting the lid, so I'm just going to leave it for a couple of weeks probably. And then bottle it. So I'll see you back for the testing. Okay, so we're back ready for the tasting, my favourite part of the brewing process. So this is the First Gold Ale that created using the extract, the unhopped extract and the First Gold hops. It's been in the bottle for about 4.5 weeks now. It finished at just under 5%, 4.8% I think it finished, so reasonably alcoholic. It looks nice and clear in the bottle. I've had this standing outside in the shed, so it's been served at shed temperature. So let's have a look, see what it looks like in the glass. So I added the crystal malt into this, which is obviously giving it a bit of colour. So you can see it's a lovely golden colour. Really, really nice colour actually in this glass. It's got a decent head on it. So yeah, in terms of looks, it looks cracking, fabulous. Lovely gold looking ale. Suitably gold to match the First Gold hops. So there's only one hop in this, so I use this for the bitterness, the bittering, the flavour and the aroma, so a single hop ale. I've never used First Gold hops, so I don't really know what to expect on this beer. The description promises floral, fruity type aromas, tending towards sort of marmalade maybe, sort of orangey marmalade type flavours. So let's see what it smells like. Okay, so there's definite caramelly, orangey flavour coming off it. Marmalade orange type aroma. Smells pretty good. Let's go in for a taste. Okay, so yeah, it's a pretty good beer. It tastes good. The actual body is fantastic. You can see it's got a great head on it. The hops, I'm not too sure about. There's a nice caramel body, which coming from the crystal malt presumably, but there's a very strong marmalade-y type taste coming from the hops. So I don't know whether I just overdid it with the first gold hops at the end, but it's a very dominant flavour in there. I use the American ale yeast, so it's fermented out really cleanly and kind of almost thrown the hops under the bus. It's left the hops really out there on their own, and I'm not sure it works completely, or I just overdid it. So it's all right. I'm not sure I'd do it the same again. Actually, what you drink is not too bad, but if caramel marmalade flavoured beer is your thing, then this is going to be a winner with you. I'm not entirely sure whether I'm sold on the first gold as a single hop ale. That's only my personal preference. I'd like to use the same method with the malt extract and the light crystal malt in combination, in using the same method, but perhaps using a different hop, maybe a Citra or Mosaic or something a bit more obvious like that. They're popular hops for a reason, so I think that would probably work quite well against the sort of malty caramel backbone of this beer. So the actual process and the beer I'm happy with, but perhaps I wouldn't use first gold again. That'd just be my personal preference. But yeah, overall, I think it's a success. If you're thinking about giving extract brewing a go, don't know where to start, as you've seen, it's dead easy. You can mess about with grains, mess about with the yeast and the hops, and see what you come up with. It's, you know, it's a learning process. Every day is a school day. So anyway, I'm going to drink the rest of these. Cheers.